1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Honeybee.
Honeybee and I are two best friends making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We started in 1933 with King Kong, and today we are in 2008 with Monster X Strikes Back, Attack the G8 Summit.
Hey!
And also, right now, we recorded this ahead of time, but right now we are in Chicago at G-Fest. So if you're at G-Fest, come find us.
Come
Say
find
hello.
us, come take a picture with us, come eat lunch with us.
Honeybee, initial thoughts on Monster X Strikes Back.
My initial thoughts on this movie are like, I can't tell if this movie is supposed to be funny or supposed to be serious, because there is a lot of back and forth for me where sometimes it's very like Robin Hood Men in Tights type funny, where it's just like ridiculous, hilarious, haha, obviously this is funny. And then also moments where people are like really serious and I'm like, shit, I can't tell what side of the fence that I am on. But I will say, compared to last week's movie, I really felt like watching this movie was like, okay, we're back to our regularly scheduled program, because this movie felt so classic to me. Just very classic kaiju. We got a man in a suit. We got tiny toys being flung everywhere. We have the government and the pew-pew doing the maps and the meetings. We have a few random paunchies. It's just, I feel like, okay, thank goodness, we're back. And even though for the time that this movie came out, I feel like it's a little bit of a late bloomer, I feel like if you really appreciate classic kaiju movies, that you can really appreciate just the hilarity of this movie and just like the classic kaiju-esque-ness of it. So initial thoughts, I'm just not sure if I should take it seriously or if I should not, but I will say, overall, initially, I did enjoy it, and it did make me laugh out loud so many times. But there are just so many things in it that I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be taking this seriously or not.
Right. Well, Wikipedia does describe it as a kaiju comedy.
Okay, well, thank God for that.
And I would say more specifically, it's a satire. It's not a parody of kaiju movies.
Right.
But it is satirizing international relations mostly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Though there is one moment that I quite liked when they do kind of parody kaiju movies, and that's when the random Panchito comes in to say, they're making fun of a specific scene in the original movie.
Yeah.
He pops up to say, I think we should call the monster Guilala. And they're like, what are you doing here? This is an official government meeting. Get this kid out of here.
And then they call him that for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. So,
well, there was a few moments in this movie that I just fucking lost it and just loved so much. And I don't want to give them away too early, but I really thought when you were like, there was one point in this movie that I was like, I just thought I knew exactly what you were talking about, but I was wrong. So I cannot wait to get to the part that I was thinking of.
Okay. Let's see. Directed by Minoru Kawasaki. It was produced by Shochiku released by Shochiku and produced by the Guilala Production Committee. So that seems to me like a company that was put together just to make this movie. Somebody just loved Monster X and wanted to put out a sequel. Now, one criticism of this movie is that they do just recycle a lot of footage from the original movie. So a lot of Guilala's scenes are just reused. Mm-hmm. So, which also means that we don't get some new overhaul of the monster. It's Guilala.
But I will say the little the little Sofubi Guilala that they use in the mapping scenes, I was like, oh my god, it's so cute. Uh-huh. And if any of you guys want one of those, we probably know a guy or two. So hey, shout out to those guys.
Toko Toy Town.
Yeah.
Let's see. His attack on the power plant and almost every scene of him shooting fireballs are reused. The cast is Natsuki Kato as Sumiri, Kazuki Kato as Senpai. Are they related? Are they married?
No, I think they just work together.
Brother and sister, or is it just a very common name, perhaps?
Yeah, I think
nothing
so.
Let me check her. Yeah, there's nothing on either of their pages. Oh, well, on her page it says spouse unknown, married to 2014. So, no spouse listed for him. Senpai is not a name. It's a thing. It's a form of address. Because of anime, a lot of people think it means the person you have a crush on, but it's really more the person you admire. And I don't know that there really is a English equivalent.
I'm not gonna lie,
not quite
because
boss.
of anime, I kind of thought it was like not really, but kind of like daddy.
In the anime, it's kind of used as a person that you want to notice you. So sure, but yeah, it's not quite boss. It's not quite daddy. It's not quite sensei, teacher. But it's we heard it actually way back in. I don't think we mentioned it at the time, but what do you call it? Q. What's the show? What am I talking about?
I don't know, but I just
Ultra Q. Ultra Q. Sometimes the I think the younger pilot will call the other pilot senpai.
I just googled
anyway,
it and it says that it's like senior or an honorific upperclassman or a mentor figure.
Yeah, right. But it's not just used in school though. But maybe that's where it originates. Anyway, apparently that's the only thing anybody calls him in this movie, so that's how his name is listed. Akira Matsushita as former Prime Minister Junzaburo Ozuma. Watabi as, and then it's blank next to his name.
Well, shit.
John Hess as U.S. President Earth Berger. Anatoly Krasnov as Russian President Beef Stroganoff Putin. Inga Murata as Bundeskanzlerin Angela Merkel. She's the German Prime Minister or President or whatever. Ingo as former President Escalugo Solcosi. Roberto Coruscante as Italian Prime Minister Pisano Pietro.
Ew.
Wayne Doster as British Prime Minister Master Pi Brightman. That guy was not British.
Yeah,
he
very
sounded
obviously
like he was maybe
so.
from Brooklyn or something.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
I guess they figured the Japanese audience wouldn't know one English accent from another. They wouldn't know the difference between an American accent and a British accent. Rakea Spooner as KGB. Ziko Uchiyama as Northern Dictator. Shoken Kunimoto as blank. Yakinabe as blank. Kon Aramura as announcer. Kei Azawa as translator. Hikari Nagase as translator. Hikara Inoue as translator. Meiko Kawamura as translator. Rai Natsumi as translator. Emi Ota as translator. Yuri Moshita as translator. Shunya Wasabi as blank. Lily Frankly as blank. Namura Abe as villager, Susumu Kurobe as officer, Kimura Masami Horuchi, also blank, Bin Furuya as officer, Takamine. We know his name from Ultraman. He was the original Ultraman. And other things.
Sick.
Ichi Kikuchi as Mayor Makichi, Hurricane Ryo as Guilala, and Takeshi Kitano as Take Majin. I believe Hurricane Ryo is he's an illustrator, comic book author, writer, director, martial artist, and actor. And his name has come up before. He was involved in like Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Yeah, I guess he has done some suit work. So he was King Ghidorah and Batra and Baby Godzilla.
Aw.
Godzilla Jr.
Fuck yeah.
And so it looks like a lot of his acting has been that kind of stuff. This was released at G-Fest number 16, G-Fest 16.
Fuck yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's well, let's get into the plot. But yeah, it was fun. In the year 2008, this is from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. 2008, all the world leaders, not all of them, are together at the G8 summit. No, the leaders of 8 countries. That's why it's called the G8. Sometimes it's the G7 when we're mad at Russia and don't let them come. They're meeting in Japan. A meteorite crashes into the heart of Sapporo and releases the monster Guilala. The monster rampages through Sapporo, leaving death and destruction in his wake. After leveling the city, Guilala transforms into a giant ball of fire and flies across Hokkaido, making its way to the G8 summit. Prime Minister of Japan proposes canceling the summit.
Well, we get like a lot of shit in the beginning of like, it's instantly just like silly. Like it's like all the 8 world leaders like walking up off the plane, and instantly the fucking President Burger like pushes some guy. Like it's just rude. Like he just pushes him out of the way, and it's like funny, but I was like, oh my god, like that was rude. Like what is going on? And it was instantly just like silly, like right out the gate. And then we also get like some...
weird though, because this it's weird though because this was 2008 this was years before Trump famously pushed another world leader out of his way at, I think, a G8 summit.
Who did this?
So they're not Trump just shoved I can't remember who it was, but another world leader
God.
just kind of reached around and grabbed his shoulder and pushed him behind him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you could look for that clip online later. But yeah, this was before that. So this guy is not a parody of Trump or anyone specific that I could tell. Just sort of a general loud American.
Yeah, I really thought like in the when the whole like kablooey like happens and they're like, oh, it's a huge monster, and then like America's like, we ain't gonna back down, we're gonna fight. I was like, oh shit, okay, he's like the Carl Denham of the group, but actually it wasn't like that kind of thing at all. I mean, he's just like big dumb loud American, which is really funny in this movie and kind of in general, but yeah, and then there was this like part, so we like get him like pushing the guy out of the way, like before the explosion even happens, we kind of see this like we get like a musical bit where it's not, but I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be a musical? Like what is happening? Because we get like the people like singing to their god, you know, and the reporter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're like doing it, and the song kind of slaps. I'm not gonna lie, but it's so funny.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
You were?
I was gonna say exactly that this song slaps. Yes, I was even gonna use that term, slaps.
It does. Like it is very like, oh shit. All right. Yes, and then they like stop abruptly, and then we kind of get the moment back in the meeting where, okay, where are my IBS girlies at? We're getting a little bit of representation here with the guy with this like always has to shit, like he just always has to leave to shit. Just so funny. Like, why does this leader? He just has like a nervous stomach, I guess. I don't know. He's like always trying to he just took a laxative. I don't know, but yeah. And then we get this moment where this is also before the explosion, where France is just like, I'm like, why does this guy look sneaky? And then I'm like, oh, gross. He's trying to bang this fucking translator. Then we get the explosion.
Yeah.
Ugh. Gosh, so much happening in this movie, so many like goofy things, and I was like, I can't tell, is this supposed to be so goofy? But it definitely is. But somehow President Burger just like talks everyone into fighting out of pure like ego and spite.
Well, there's a whole thing on that here in a second, but good. Everybody everybody is a stereotype of the nation they're from, and they all speak their own language almost entirely, and they make a little bit of a pretense of showing the translators off to the side, but most of the time we don't see any earpieces or any translation going on. So, like at the UN, everybody will have a little headpiece, and they'll be listening to a translation in it. And I don't know if at the G8 summit, if they have the same kind of setup, but they make a pretense of there being all these translators, but most of the time they just talk in their own language and people respond immediately in their own language.
Well, they do all have the little black earbuds. They have a little earbud in, like a little black earbud, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they're getting the translation, but there's no pause for them to hear the translation.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, the Prime Minister of Japan proposes canceling the summit for the safety of all involved, but the President of the United States convinces the other world leaders to personally stay and fight. Shortly after forming a world alliance, each leader stays to fight for their own reasons, and then it lists each of them. United States to boost his ratings in the polls. France to make a move on a pretty Japanese interpreter. So he's kind of hesitant, and then he looks back at the interpreter, who is very cute, and she's kind of making eyes at him, and he's like, "Oh, I can't look bad in front of her." So he's like, "I'll stay and fight." Great Britain to assist their ally, the United States. Germany to put an end to sexism by the German Parliament. Canada to accompany the German leader for her safety. Italy believes that ancient Roman philosophies will stop Guilala. Russia feels left out by the group, and because Russia is close to Japan, where Guilala might head next. And Japan joins the group majority, agreeing to stop Guilala. Well, Japan can't. I mean, it's their country that's being attacked. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Though they could have gone to a more secure location. They could have gone to a bunker somewhere. The leaders soon discover the reason for Guilala's appearance on Earth was due to a Chinese satellite that fell out of orbit and was the crashed meteorite in Sapporo. Assisting the leaders is Dr. Sano, a Japanese scientist who discovers that Guilala is actually a cosmic spore attached to the probe that was exposed to Earth's atmosphere, causing it to grow into the monster, which I think is kind of what happens in the original. He also figures out... Now, I think this movie is actually technically more of like a reboot than a sequel.
Yeah.
Or a remake, because they don't mention him having been there before.
They don't mention him, but they do mention... There's a guy on TV who mentions Baragon at one point, and Varan.
Okay.
Which I was like, okay, well, that's cool, I guess.
He also figures out that the crash caused Guilala to lose a lot of energy, and it is searching for high-temperature energy to recharge. The doctor does not think the monster will leave Japan until it finds the energy it needs.
Which, when it does, this is this guy who's like, harvesting the natural energy from a volcano. Now that's a typical Japanese strategy for you. I was like, okay.
Meanwhile, Guilala arrives at the Noburibetsu power plant and sucks all of the energy out of the plant. Hoping to trap Guilala, the Japanese set up an earthquake generator near Showa Shinzen to draw Guilala to a magma flow and destroy him with a super missile known as the Vulture.
Too bad he eats it.
He does.
And when they shoot the missile, the American president says, Yahoo! Like, very country. I was like, no, not the Yahoo.
Guilala arrives to feed, but he swallows the missile whole when it is fired at him.
And then burps.
Soon other countries are scrambling. Yes. Soon other countries are scrambling with their own super weapons, but each one fails in comedic fashion. And I think they're all kind of stereotypical because the Russians want to poison him with the same poison that they used in real life to kill some reporter. Was it the Italians that want to stab him in the back? The Germans want to gas him, which is, like gas chambers in World War II. I thought that was awfully harsh.
Ooh.
In the middle of all this, the Japanese prime minister is waylaid by diarrhea and is replaced by Junzaburo Ozumi, a former prime minister.
They should have said waylaid by diarrhea again, because this is not the first time in this movie that this has happened to him.
A former prime minister and friend of the U.S. president, but he's also clearly wearing a wig, although this is explained later. He arrives to help in the battle, but seems shifty. Ozumi even suggests using nuclear weapons, but is stared down by the other leaders, which is the opposite of what we normally see in these movies, where the Japanese are like, no, we cannot possibly use nuclear weapons. When Guilala's mind is damaged by a British brainwashing weapon, the monster begins a wild rampage. Because it, kills his mind, but doesn't stop his body from
but way before we get there, because when the mind thing happens is so funny, just because they fly in a giant pair of headphones, which just made me laugh so hard. But before that, when they're still it's so funny that they go from plan A to plan B to plan C to plan, they just keep doing all these things, cycling through them, and we get to see everyone. And the little kid, or he's not really a little kid, he's a man, but runs and changes the plan on the paper, sticks a new paper there. I was laughing so hard. But before that, when he when they do the missile that he starts following to trip him in the hole, I noticed that Guilala's toes are done red to match his eyes. Work, queen, okay? And then I realized later on, his nails are also red. His toes are red, his nails are red. I was like, okay, work. Kaiju, serving kaiju realness. But he when he falls in this hole, and everyone's like, yeah, we got him. Woo, the plan worked. I'm like, well, what? You don't think that the big monster who swallowed missiles can, trip and fall and survive it? They're nothing could go wrong. Yeah. And then they're surprised, when he, climbs out, which I'm it's just, so classic. And then he just starts fireballing everyone. Ugh. And they're like, okay, well, hey, has anyone seen the French guy and the translator? Where are they? Just eating dinner, canoodling. Talking about his new bride that he doesn't give a shit about. So when this scene happened, I was like, ooh. When she was talking about his new bride, I was like, ooh, Guilala is gonna kill his ass because he deserves it. Sometimes we see that, or there's a shifty guy who's doing something wrong, so the monster kills him. That doesn't happen, but I did think maybe that was gonna happen. No. With the canoodling scene, but it doesn't.
He's just being French.
Yeah, he's just schmoozing it up.
He can get away with it.
But it's so gross. It's so gross because he says something he's like, I'm your Eiffel Tower, and my tower really wants to enter your arc. And I'm like, I don't know whether to laugh or puke.
Arc de Triomphe. Yeah.
It's disgusting. So then we go to the poisoning plan, which is basically Guilala versus guy from the Matrix. Yeah, this guy in a trench coat and sunglasses with a big tranquilizer gun just shows up and shoots him. And when he shoots him, Guilala's kind of shaking, and he kind of shakes, and his fingies, his fingers are so rubbery. When he's shaking, they just look hysterical. It was so funny. So then we get the Russian thing where he starts snoring. I love this. I love that he burps. I love that he snores. Why am I like this? I don't know. But I just love this, that like Guilala is just like doing all of these like bodily things. It just like cracks me the fuck up. Then we do the poison gas plan. They cover him up. They gas him, which just wakes him up, and he starts laughing. He burps.
Yeah, like it's laughing gas.
He snores. He laughs. Then, after he laughs, he does a little jig in the sunset. He just starts dancing around while someone starts singing that we can't see, and I am screaming at this point. It is so funny. He's just like doing a little jig in the sunset, like, woo, laughing gas, hell yeah. And then we get the brainwashing radio plan, which is so freaking hysterical because, yeah, they just freaking fly in the biggest pair of headphones you've ever seen. The monster barely, like, his head is not even shaped like a head. So I'm like, how is this going to fit? But they drop the headphones directly, I guess, where his ears would be, where they're supposed to be, and quote unquote brainwash radio wave plan him, which is just, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. And then we meet Shinichi, which is basically our actual Panchito of the movie, our little wise Shinichi.
So after the brainwashing plan doesn't work, he starts a wild rampage. And Ozumi suddenly reveals that he is in fact the supreme leader of the North Country, by which they mean North Korea.
Yeah.
He looks like Kim Jong-il.
Do you remember those Pepsi commercials?
Which is why he's wearing a bad wig.
Yes. Yeah, it's very
Pepsi
like
commercials?
It's like very like old school Pepsi commercials where like it would be like a celebrity or like somebody, and then they would like unzip themselves and it would be like a different celebrity. It's very much like that. Like he just rips the wig off and then all of a sudden like he basically just like unzipped himself and is like another person. It reminded me of like a 90s, like a Pepsi commercial in the 90s.
Okay. He stole Ozumi's identity during a state visit. He reveals that the Japanese interpreters attending the G8 summit are all his spies, and they all draw weapons. And also suddenly they're wearing different outfits, and do a lot of giggling, taking the world leaders hostage. He also announces that he plans on using a limited nuclear warhead to destroy Guilala. Meanwhile, President Sarkozy of France has finally bedded the translator, who confesses her true identity.
Which
Clad
also,
only in a towel, Sarkozy creates a distraction.
I'm wondering how, like, if this happened and like he reveals himself and then all the translators reveal themselves, doesn't that mean that now there aren't any translators? So how are we still talking to each other all in our native languages? Right. It's like, did they, because they're all in headlocks. Yeah, like they're all in headlocks. And you see this several times when it like flashes back to this scene. They're just like behind this, what's actually happening. And there's a bunch of people who have these translators in headlocks. It's just so funny, and it's so funny that they still just understand each other. And by the way, while all of this is happening, our little reporter babe, she has like gone to the village and she wants to learn about like, hey, why is Guilala like etched on your ceiling up there? I want to learn, what is it? And we kind of like kind of hear the legend of Guilala and like how, you know, what is it? What Takamajin is like how they're supposed to like fight or whatever, and we kind of get like Shinichi's little origin story, like his dead dad telling him that like Takamajin will protect him while he's dying, and we kind of get this like little moment which is just very classic kaiju movie, I felt like, so I really appreciated that little moment. And then we get like, you know, all the government silly hoo-ha with the towel and such.
Well, they for some reason they've all the stuff with the reporters they list after as a meanwhile, so we'll get to them in a minute. Clad only in a towel, Sarkozy creates a distraction which allows Japanese soldiers to rush the spies. The North Country leader is captured, but not before managing to launch the nuclear missile at Guilala. Dr. Sano announces that Guilala's spores are re-energized and that if the missile strikes, it will spread Guilala's spores worldwide. Meanwhile, two Japanese journalists named Sumiri Sumidagawa and, this is Sampai, not Senpai. Sanpai. I guess they listed it wrong earlier. I don't know. Sanpai Toyama discovers a hidden village full of worshippers. They are driven out as outsiders intruding on a sacred ceremony. Shortly afterwards, Guilala lands and begins searching for energy. Sumeri and Sampai are sent to get news on Guilala's rampage. However, their efforts prove unsuccessful as other news groups are looking for big news on Guilala. During the G8 summit's efforts to stop Guilala, Sumeri encounters a boy she saw at the village's ceremony. Believing that the village might know how to stop Guilala, Sumeri and Sampai return for answers. They find a carving of Guilala, which they also notice is battling another monster. That figure is known as Take Majin, which as near as I could figure is bamboo demon. A deity that the villagers worship. An ancient prophecy predicted that Guilala was going to destroy the world, but he would be stopped by Take Majin, who would awaken to save mankind from Guilala. The little boy Sumeri met earlier worshipped Take Majin after his father was killed in a landslide. Concerned with the planet's safety over their own, Sumeri and the reluctant Sampai participate in Take Majin's awakening ceremony, which is the song that we both enjoyed so much. And there's, dance movements and gestures that go with it. Just when Take Majin is about to wake up, the entire village is evacuated by the army when the nuclear missile launched by North Country begins to approach Guilala. Just in time, Take Majin suddenly awakens and stops the missile by catching it with his buttocks. It goes
he
up his
shoves
butt,
the missile
allowing
and he
it
shoves
to
a nuke in his
explode.
ass. And he literally says, well, that's
he just
better.
appears right in front of it and boom.
And just takes it up the ass. And if at any point you're wondering why is Take Majin cross-eyed, well, don't forget, people, he has a nuke in his ass.
Yeah. So it explodes harmlessly inside his body. He then confronts Guilala, preparing for battle. After a long battle, Take Majin is victorious, decapitating Guilala and saving all of humanity as prophesied. So, how
the
does
way
he
my
cut his head
jaw
off?
dropped. He has this golden ring that kind of is etched out to look like his helmet, but it kind of looks like a troll head. And he just says, take that, and just throws it, and it just slink. I'm like, why didn't you start with that? And I know why he didn't start with that, because he
it's
wanted
kind of
to
exactly
take the nuke up his ass.
that's what I was about to say. It's he's got a ring that's like Xena's chakram.
Ooh.
And it's not a case where he had to power up first or something. He just forgot he had it.
Yeah.
Why didn't you lead with that? Because
Yeah,
it works right away. As soon as he uses it, it works immediately.
Yeah, my jaw hit the floor when his head just slink. I mean, I literally my mouth. I was like, what? I mean, I was already what the actual fuck with the whole I could not let it go. If you've listened to this show before, or if you know me, you know that I was like, hold on a second. He just take that up his ass? I could not fucking believe it. And then he just fights him for a while, and then it's oh yeah, this thing chops his head off. Oh my word, this is crazy pants. This is clown shoes. I crazy, fucking crazy.
Take Majin then returns into his shrine to sleep once again. The G8 summit leaders celebrate their victory by taking a bath in a hot spring, despite the supreme leader of the North Country escaping during the fight.
Yeah, they're ooh, we should all go bare ourselves naked at the summit. And the French guy, who's in nothing but a towel because he was banging the translator, sneezes and his towel falls off. And they're just laughing. And I'm just oh my gosh, this movie is fucking wild.
There you go, folks. Monster X Strikes Back. Attack the G8 Summit. You can find it on you can find it at the Internet Archive. I don't think it's streaming anywhere else. I don't know if you can buy a physical copy, but I enjoyed it. I recommend it.
I definitely.
It was fun.
It was so fun. It was so funny. There's so much funny, weird little shit happening. Things that sprinkle throughout the movie that are just hilarious. And it's like you don't even know if they're supposed to be, and that's just so fun. It was just really fun. It was enjoyable, and I really did feel like it was classic. There was so much in it that was just like, this is classic kaiju. So I do think that in 2008, when this came out, that it was probably like not as good as it feels like in this moment in 2024, like watching it like, aha, this is like a classic kaiju film. But if you do love, the classics, like from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, I think that you'll really enjoy this movie. But if you're looking for something that is very of the time, like 2007, we saw Cloverfield in 2007, which is like very modern. In comparison, there's a huge difference, right? This is like it just feels like a late bloomer. It feels like a very late bloomer for its time. I feel like it should have came out like maybe in like the 60s or 70s. But it's just, I definitely recommend it. It's so much fun. There's so many classics. You could definitely get a few bingos out of this movie because there's just so much things in it that every kaiju movie has. Every one that we've seen has. And when you think of a kaiju movie, it has like all of the things that it should. You know what I mean? So definitely fun. So hilarious. If nothing else, just watch it for the nuke scene because it will shock and amaze you.
All right, what are you going to rate Monster X Strikes Back?
I'm going to say 4 stars for me.
Okay. I'm going to give it 3.5.
Nice.
I did enjoy it, but I don't know if it's quite a 4-star movie, but it was
I feel
fun.
The same way. I feel like it's definitely like not quite the quality of a 4-star movie, but I will say it was better than just okay for me. I did like it.
All right, thanks for joining us, folks. If you like the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. You can follow us at mmftg.com, and you can support the show at patreon.com/mmftg. That's going to wrap it up for today. So until next time, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honey Bee.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please, don't misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Yay!
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.